Which of the following occurs due to the substitution of glutamic acid with valine in the hemoglobin or RBCs? So just to break down this question, before we look at the choices, note this term substitution. And when you hear substitution, you should be thinking of a genetic mutation. So genetic mutation. Specifically, when it mentions here the glutamic acid and valine, those are specific amino acids that are like codes within DNA structure. So if you remember in your DNA, you have G's, A's, T's, and C's. And different combinations and groups of 3, which are known as codons, have code for specific amino acids. So when this question is asking about glutamic acid and valine, this is what this is referring to. It's talking about a substitution type of genetic mutation involving those amino acids. And substitution would mean that something is going in place of something else, and that's causing a genetic mutation. So you think if you substitute French fries for mashed potatoes, that means that you're putting something in place of something else. So now that we have this idea of genetic mutation, we know some sort of genetic condition involved, that helps us to narrow our choices down. Because if we look at options A and B, sickle cell anemia and thalassemia, these are both genetic conditions. So they both are genetic. So these are 2 choices that we want to consider when we're thinking of conditions that are possible genetic mutations that this question is asking about. If we look at the bottom 2 choices, thrombocytopenia and leukemia, these would not be genetic conditions for us to consider. Leukemia is a type of cancer, and although maybe there's sometimes a genetic component, it's not considered a genetic condition. It's not something that a baby is inherited with, and right when they're born, they have the disease. It's something that happens over time, so we could eliminate option D. Option C, thrombocytopenia, refers to a low number of platelets, so decreased platelets. So you remember in your blood, just a very basic structure, you have your red blood cells, your white blood cells, and your platelets. The platelets have to do with clotting, so it's a decreased amount of clotting cells, decreased amount of platelets. So that would not be caused by genetic substitution. That could be caused by other types of conditions or medications, but that's not what we want to focus on for this question. So we just want to figure out this specific substitution involving glutamic acid and valine. Does this relate to sickle cell anemia, or does it relate to thalassemia? For option B, thalassemia, this is a genetic mutation that's inherited slightly different than sickle cell disease. So the way that this is inherited, it could be from a variety of different types of mutations. So it could be from a deletion. So instead of something being put in instead of a different part, it's just completely eliminated. Or it could be due to different other types of mutations, such as splicing, which is joining different parts together and then eliminating what's no longer needed. And it is also a mutation of the alpha or beta globulin genes. So the difference between the thalassemia inheritance versus the sickle cell is that, as you could see from what we've described, it does not include substitution, which is what we are looking for. So it's asking for a substitution genetic mutation for this question. However, in sickle cell disease, it is a point mutation where the single base is substituted, just as we were describing before. And the substitution is with the glutamic acid and the valine. So therefore, sickle cell disease would be your correct choice because it is a genetic mutation involving substitution, involving glutamic acid and valine. Thalassemia would be different because it's inherited through deletion, so it's not the same type of genetic mutation.